Elena's heart hammered so hard she could hear it over the rain as she walked away from the art gallery. Michael's taste still lingered on her lips. The pressure of his hand still burned on her wrist, and the guilt hit her in waves, each one stronger than the last. She kept replaying the moment in the dark corner behind the sculpture installation, his mouth on hers, the way she had leaned in instead of pulling back. She told herself it was only one kiss, only one mistake. But the lie felt thin even inside her own head. By the time she reached the apartment building, her coat was soaked through. She stood under the awning for a full minute, wiping rain from her face, trying to make her expression normal before stepping inside. The elevator smelled of wet dog and someone's takeout curry. She watched the numbers climb, 3, 4, 5, and rehearsed what she would say if Andre noticed anything. Nothing happened. I was at Anna's. Traffic was bad. The usual. The key turned too loudly in the lock. Inside, the lights were off except for the faint glow from the kitchen. Sergei was already asleep. She could hear the soft whistle of his breathing through the cracked bedroom door. Andre's shoes were by the entrance, lined up perfectly the way he always left them. Everything looked normal. Too normal. She slipped off her boots, hung the dripping coat, and walked into the living room on silent feet. Andre was on the couch, back to her, head bowed over something in his lap. For one terrifying second, she thought he was crying. Then he turned the screen toward the light, and she saw it wasn't his phone. Michael's phone. The matte black case with the engraved MK initials glinted under the lamp. Elena froze in the doorway, one hand still clutching the strap of her bag. Andre didn't look up right away. He just thumbed slowly through the message thread, the blue light carving harsh shadows across his face. "Funny thing," he said, voice perfectly level. "I come home early for once, looking forward to surprising my family, and I find this on the coffee table." He finally raised his eyes. They were bloodshot, but dry. Cold. "You know whose it is, right?" Elena's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Andre tapped the screen. "I can still taste you." That was the last one you sent him, 43 minutes ago. He read it aloud like he was reading a grocery list. "While I was finishing the quarterly report that kept us in this apartment, you were tasting my best friend." "Andrea!" "Don't." He lifted one finger. "Don't lie. Not tonight. I'm too tired for the performance." He stood up slowly, phone dangling from his hand. Every step he took toward her felt rehearsed, like he had practiced it in his head 100 times on the walk home. Elena backed up until her shoulders hit the wall. The framed wedding photo beside her head rattled from the impact. "You left it here on purpose, didn't you?" he asked, voice dropping to a whisper. "Or was it an accident? Tell me, Elena, which one makes you sleep better?" Her pulse roared in her ears. "It wasn't supposed to happen. It just happened." He finished for her. "Yeah, I read that part too, over and over. You wrote it to him 3 weeks ago. It just happened. Then it just happened again, and again. And tonight it just happened behind a 10-foot sculpture of rusted nails, while I paid the babysitter overtime." He was close enough now that she could smell the faint coffee on his breath. His free hand came up, not to hit her, she knew he wouldn't, but to brace against the wall beside her head, caging her in. "Give me one reason," he said, so quietly she had to strain to hear it. "One single reason I shouldn't call Michael right now and tell him to come pick up his property in person. I'll wait." Elena's knees started shaking. She pressed her palms flat against the wall to stay upright. "Because Sergei is asleep 10 feet away," she managed. Andrei's eyes flicked toward their son's door, then back to her. Something dark and unreadable moved behind them. "Wrong answer," he said. "Try again." I'll end it. Tonight, I swear." He studied her face the way a man studies a cracked foundation, deciding whether the damage is structural or just cosmetic. "You think that fixes this?" He held up the phone so the screen faced her. The lock screen photo was one Michael had taken of them last month. Elena laughing, head thrown back, his arm around her waist. Andrei's thumb hovered over the power button. "One press and this phone is factory reset. Every message, every photo, every second of your little adventure. Gone. Like it never happened. That's what you want, isn't it? For it to disappear?" Elena couldn't breathe. "Or," he continued, voice silk smooth now, "I could forward the entire thread to your mother, or to Sergei's preschool chat, or to every partner at my firm who still thinks we're the perfect family. How many seconds do you think it would take before your life is over, Elena? 10? 15? Tears finally spilled over. "Please, Andrei. I'm begging you." He leaned in until his forehead almost touched hers. "You don't get to beg. You lost that privilege the first time you let him put his hands on you." He pulled back just far enough to look her straight in the eye. "But I'm reasonable. I'll give you 24 hours to tell me, yourself, exactly how far this went. Every detail, every place, every lie you told me to make it happen. And then we'll decide what comes next." He slipped Michael's phone into his pocket, the movement slow and deliberate. "Starting now," he said, stepping away. "The clock is running. Don't waste it rehearsing more lies. I'll know." He walked past her toward the bedroom, pausing only to add without turning around. "And Elena, if I find out you warned him, if I see even one extra text, one call, one step out of line, then I won't need 24 hours. I'll end this my way." The bedroom door closed with a soft click that sounded louder than any slam. Elena slid down the wall until she sat on the cold hardwood, arms wrapped around her knees, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Somewhere down the hall, the old wall clock struck 10. Each chime felt like another nail in whatever was left of her life. She had 24 hours, and Michael still had no idea his phone was already in Andrei's pocket. Andrei's fingers trembled as he picked up the sleek black phone from the coffee table, the engraved MK initials catching the dim light from the lamp. His heart pounded hard enough to echo in his ears. Michael. It had to be Michael's. Why was it here, in their apartment, when no one was home? He told himself it was nothing. Michael probably stopped by to see Elena, forgot it on the table like he always forgot things. They'd been friends for 15 years. He crashed on their couch after late nights drinking whiskey and complaining about work. Normal. Explainable. But the phone felt heavy in his palm, pulling at him. Put it away, he thought. Just set it on the shelf and hand it back tomorrow. His thumb moved on its own, pressing the side button. The screen lit up with a flood of notifications. One stood out, bold and unread, from Elena. I already miss you. His stomach dropped. He stared at the words until they blurred. This wasn't real. He swiped down, unlocked it, no passcode, Michael never bothered, and opened the messages. The thread with Elena filled the screen. Hundreds of them. You were incredible tonight. With you, Misha, I can finally be myself. When can you sneak out again? Can't wait to feel you inside me. Each line hit harder than the last. Andre scrolled up, faster, dates going back months, photos, a selfie of Elena in their bed, wearing the red lingerie he'd bought her last Christmas. Another of Michael's hand sliding up her thigh in his car. Andre's vision tunneled. The room spun. The phone slipped from his fingers and landed face up on the couch cushion. He stood, pacing the small living room like a caged animal, breath coming in sharp bursts. His fists clenched so tight his nails dug half-moons into his palms. Images flashed. Elena laughing at Michael's jokes during Sunday dinners. Michael clapping him on the back while passing the whiskey, both of them smiling at him across the table while planning their next hookup. The betrayal burned hotter than anything he'd ever felt. He wanted to drive to Elena's mother's house right now, drag them both out, scream until the whole building heard. But he stopped himself. No, not yet. He needed to know everything. How long? How often? Every lie. Rushing would let them spin it, deny it, make him look crazy. He grabbed the phone, stuffed it deep into the kitchen drawer under the utility bills, and slammed it shut. Evidence. Proof they couldn't erase. Elena walked in at 7:42 p.m., cheeks flushed, hair slightly damp from the rain, carrying the glow she only got when something made her feel alive. She kicked off her wet boots, hung her coat, and smiled at him like nothing was wrong. How was your day? Andre asked, voice flat, forcing his face into a neutral mask. Every muscle in his body screamed to grab her by the shoulders. Good, she said quickly, glancing at him then away, busying herself with Sergei's backpack. Mom made borscht. Sergei ate 2 bowls. She didn't notice the way his eyes tracked her every move, didn't feel the chill in the air. Andre smiled, thin, practiced, and pulled her into a quick hug. Good night later, his arms stiff around her waist. Glad you're home, he murmured into her hair, breathing in the faint trace of Michael's cologne clinging to her skin. In bed, Elena fell asleep fast, her breathing soft and even. Andre lay staring at the ceiling, heart racing. The rage had cooled into something sharper, darker, a plan. He would watch. He would wait. Let them think everything was fine. The longer they believed he was clueless, the harder they would fall. Morning came gray and cold. The apartment that once felt safe now pressed in on him. Every corner mocked him with memories of their lies. He sat at the kitchen table staring at his untouched tea, the messages replaying in his head like a loop. "You were incredible. I miss you," he whispered. "Bastards," under his breath, voice shaking, then slammed his fist on the table. The cup tipped, tea spilling across the wood. He didn't bother wiping it. The happy memories attacked next. Meeting Elena in college, her bright laugh when he proposed, choosing Sergei's name together in the hospital, her squeezing his hand, while tears ran down her face the first time she held their son. All of it poisoned now. All of it fake. He stood and paced the kitchen, back and forth, pulse hammering in his temples. His eyes landed on the family photo on the living room shelf, them smiling on last year's beach trip. Perfect family. Perfect lie. He stormed over, snatched the frame, and hurled it to the floor. Glass shattered across the hardwood, shards catching the light. "You don't deserve this," he hissed through clenched teeth, staring at his distorted reflection in the broken pieces. The rage shifted. No more screaming. No more breaking things. He needed control. Precision. He sat back down, pulled out his own phone, and scrolled to an old contact. Pavel Wolf. A man he'd helped years ago. Got him out of a fraud charge, with a quiet tip to the right lawyer. Pavel owed him big. The phone rang twice. "Yeah?" Pavel's voice was rough like gravel. "It's Andre." "Well, damn. Been years, man. What's wrong? You never call unless it's bad." "I need help," Andre said, gripping the phone tight, keeping his voice steady, even as his heart slammed against his ribs. "Personal. Someone I trusted screwed me over. I need it handled clean. No questions, no traces." Pavel chuckled low. "Sounds interesting. Where?" They agreed on a dive bar on the edge of town, dim lights, sticky tables, the kind of place nobody remembered faces. Andre hung up feeling something new. Power. That evening he walked into the bar, the smell of cheap beer and cigarette smoke hitting him hard. Pavel sat in the back corner, nursing a beer, eyes sharp under heavy brows. "Talk," Pavel said, leaning forward. Andre sat and let it spill, every detail, every message, every betrayal. His voice stayed low, cold, each word dripping venom. Pavel's eyes widened once, then settled back into professional blankness. "You want them gone?" Pavel asked calmly, swirling his beer. "No," Andre snapped. "I want them to lose everything. Him, his job, his money, his reputation, his future. Her, she needs to feel real pain, isolation, losing what matters most. Slow. Make it hurt." Pavel nodded slow, a dry smirk tugging his mouth. "Takes time. But I've got guys who live for this. It'll be clean. They'll never see it coming." Andre felt the storm inside quiet into a cold, steady burn. He had a plan now. Purpose. Back home, Elena slept peacefully beside him. He watched her face in the dark, no warmth left in his gaze, only steel. The game had started, he thought, closing his eyes. And I'm playing to win. The next few days crawled by thick with tension. Andre took 3 days off work, claiming a stomach bug. He watched Elena like a hawk. She left at 10:15 a.m., saying she was grocery shopping, came back at 1:47 p.m. with 2 light bags and that same glow. She met friends for coffee and returned 2 hours later, phone clutched tight, voice a little too bright when she asked about his day. He followed her twice. First time, she went straight to the quiet harbor cafe, slid into the window booth where Michael waited, his hand immediately covering hers on the table. Andre sat in his car across the street, knuckles white on the steering wheel, forcing himself to stay put. Second time, she parked near Michael's office, disappeared inside for 43 minutes, came out fixing her lipstick. Every detail burned into his mind. He snapped photos from a distance, her getting into Michael's car, them walking close on the sidewalk, her laughing at something he whispered. He checked her phone when she showered, screenshotting new messages. Last night was risky but worth it. I need you again soon. She noticed nothing, or pretended not to. At dinner, she asked, You seem distant. Everything okay at work? Just tired, he replied, smiling tightly, watching her squirm under the lie. He called Michael Thursday night, voice warm like old times. Hey, man, been too long. Come over tomorrow, drink some whiskey, catch up. Just us guys. Michael hesitated. Andre heard it, but agreed. Sure. Sounds good. Andre hung up and stared at the drawer hiding Michael's phone. Tomorrow, his so-called best friend would sit right here, drinking his whiskey, lying to his face, and Andre would smile, ask the right questions, watch him sweat. Because the trap was already closing, and neither of them had any idea how bad it was about to get. Michael arrived last, slipping through the front door at 7:58 p.m., like a man who had already rehearsed every excuse. His tie was crooked, his eyes bloodshot, and the confident grin he used to wear had been replaced by a twitchy half-smile that never reached the rest of his face. He shook hands too hard, laughed too loud at nothing, and kept checking his phone every 30 seconds. Elena noticed immediately. She was arranging the last of the salmon blinnies when he stepped into the dining room. Her fingers froze mid-motion. The color drained from her cheeks, then rushed back in a guilty flush. She forced a bright, "Misha! You made it!" and crossed the room to kiss his cheek. Too long, too close. While Andre watched from the hallway, glass of vodka in hand, expression perfectly neutral. The apartment buzzed with relatives, Andre's parents at the head of the table, aunts arguing about recipes, cousins chasing Sergei around the couch. Normal golden wedding chaos. Nobody except Andre saw the way Elena's hand trembled when she passed Michael a drink, or how Michael's knuckles went white around the glass. Andre waited. He waited through the toasts, through the forced laughter, through Elena's mother asking Michael why he looked like death warmed over. He waited until the main course was served, until everyone had wine in their glasses and full bellies and loosened tongues. Then he stood. The room quieted out of habit. Andre rarely spoke at family gatherings. He raised his glass, smiling the easy smile they all knew. "To 50 years," he began, voice warm, "of loyalty, of trust, of never once looking at someone else and thinking the grass might be greener." A few chuckles. Elena's smile froze. Michael stared at his plate. Andre set his glass down and pulled a small remote from his pocket. The 70-inch TV on the wall flickered to life. Everyone turned, curious. The first photo filled the screen. Elena and Michael in the quiet harbor cafe, her hand resting on his, both of them laughing like teenagers. Gasps rippled through the room. The next slide. Elena climbing into Michael's car, skirt riding high, his hand already on her thigh. Someone's fork clattered against porcelain. Then the messages, screenshots blown up large enough for Andre's 75-year-old father to read without glasses. Last night was worth the risk. Tell him you're at Anna's again. I need you. I can't stop thinking about how you sound when you come. Elena made a strangled sound and lunged for the remote. Andre stepped sideways, blocking her easily. Michael bolted upright, chair scraping loud across the floor. Andre, whatever you think. Sit down, Misha, Andre said softly. We're not done. He clicked again. A video this time. Grainy cell phone footage from 2 days ago. Michael in a downtown hotel hallway, Elena pressed against the wall, his mouth on her neck, her leg hooked around his waist. The audio was crystal clear. Her moan, his low laugh, the unmistakable rustle of clothing hitting the carpet. The room exploded. Elena's mother screamed first, a raw animal sound, then slapped her daughter across the face so hard Elena's head snapped sideways. Andre's father stood slowly, face purple, pointing a shaking finger at Michael. You sat at my table. You drank my vodka. You call yourself his friend? Michael tried to speak, but 2 cousins, big men who worked construction, were already moving toward him. He backed up, hands raised. It's not what it looks like. Andre finally spoke again, voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. It's exactly what it looks like. For 8 months. In my bed. In my car. While I was working 60-hour weeks to pay for the roof you fucked my wife under. He clicked one last time. A single still image. Michael's bank statement, every account frozen, red investigation pending stamps across the page. Then another. The official letter from the prosecutor. Embezzlement, money laundering, up to 10 years. Michael's knees buckled. He grabbed the edge of the table to stay upright. Elena was sobbing, mascara streaking down her cheeks, trying to reach for Sergei, who stood frozen in the doorway, thumb in his mouth, eyes huge. Andre crouched in front of his son, blocking the boy's view of his mother. Go to your room, buddy. Grandpa will come read to you in a minute. Sergei obeyed without a word. Andre straightened and looked at Elena, really looked at her, for the first time in weeks. You wanted to feel alive, he said, almost gently. Congratulations. You're about to feel everything. He turned to the room. Dinner's over. Everyone out. People filed past in stunned silence, avoiding Elena's eyes. Some hugged Andre hard, whispering support. Others wouldn't even look at Michael. When the last guest left, the apartment door clicked shut like a coffin lid. Only 3 remained. Elena on her knees among scattered plates and spilled wine, chest heaving with silent sobs. Michael against the wall, hands over his face, breathing like he'd just run 10 miles, and Andre, standing in the center of the wreckage he had created, remote still in his hand, pulse finally, perfectly steady. He looked at Michael first. "Tomorrow morning the police will come for you. Tonight you get to sit here and think about every single time you lied to my face." Then to Elena, voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. "And you get to explain to our son why Mommy doesn't live here anymore." He walked past them both toward the bedroom, pausing only to add without turning around, "The locks change tomorrow. Don't be here when the workers arrive." The bedroom door closed with the soft finality of a judge's gavel. In the sudden silence, Elena's broken whisper was the only sound left. "Andre, please." But the hallway stayed dark, and no answer came. Outside, fresh snow kept falling, covering the city in perfect, merciless white. The apartment was dead quiet at 3:17 a.m. when Elena's phone finally buzzed on the kitchen counter. One new message, unknown number. "You still think he's done with you?" "He's not. Check your mail tomorrow. You'll understand." She stared at the screen until it went black, then stared some more. Her hands shook so hard she almost dropped the phone. She hadn't slept properly in weeks, and every unexpected sound now felt like the next bomb going off. At 7:04 a.m., the intercom crackled. A courier. Thick yellow envelope, no return address. She signed with a fake smile, closed the door, and tore it open right there in the hallway. Inside, 200 printed pages, bank records, hotel receipts, still shots from security cameras, a timeline, dates, times, locations, showing every single time she and Michael had met. On the last page, a single post-it in Andre's neat handwriting. "This goes to Sergei's school, your mother, and every parent in the preschool chat unless you're out of the apartment by Friday. You have 4 days. Don't test me again." She sank to the floor, papers scattering around her like dead leaves. The photos were clinical, merciless. Her climbing out of Michael's car at 2:11 a.m., Michael's hand on the small of her back, guiding her into the hotel entrance, the two of them in the elevator mirror, kissing while the doors closed. Her phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. "Clock's ticking, Elena." She didn't eat that day. Didn't answer the door when the director of the children's center called to ask why she hadn't shown up for her shift. She sat on the couch surrounded by the evidence of her destruction and tried to breathe around the certainty that Andre was nowhere near finished. Friday came too fast. She packed 2 suitcases and 1 cardboard box of Sergei's drawings she wasn't allowed to keep. The landlord, a friend of Andre's father, changed the locks while she watched from the hallway, pretending not to cry. When the door clicked shut for the final time, the sound was exactly the same as the night of the anniversary dinner. She moved into a studio 15 miles away, 3rd floor, peeling wallpaper, radiator that clanked like a dying animal. The first night she left the lights on because the dark felt like Andre was still watching. He was. Every Sunday she met Sergei at the same small park. Andre brought the boy, stayed exactly 20 meters away, arms folded, eyes hidden behind sunglasses, even when the sky was gray. He never spoke to her, never nodded, never once let Sergei run to her without supervision. She had exactly 60 minutes. If she was 2 minutes late, the next visit was canceled. She learned that the hard way. One Sunday in early December, it snowed hard. Sergei arrived in a new red coat she'd never seen. He threw himself into her arms, smelling of Andre's detergent and warm milk. "Mommy, when are you coming home?" he asked for the 100th time. She knelt, brushed snow from his lashes. "Soon, baby. Mommy just needs a little more time." Andre stood under the bare oak tree, breath fogging in the cold, watching, always watching. That night her phone lit up again. "Heard you told Sergei. Soon." "Don't lie to my son. Next Sunday is canceled if you do it again." She threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and cracked. Across town, Michael sat in the holding cell waiting for transfer to the federal prison. 3 years, no parole. His public defender had stopped returning calls. His mother wouldn't take his collect calls anymore. The last letter he tried to send Elena came back unopened, stamped "Return to Sender" in Andre's handwriting. Andre, meanwhile, worked late, came home to a clean apartment, cooked Sergei's favorite pelmeni, read him the same dinosaur book every night. Outwardly, life looked stable. Inside, the victory tasted like metal. One night in January, he opened the bottom drawer of his desk and took out the broken family photo he'd glued back together months ago. The cracks spiderwebbed across all 3 faces. He stared at it for a long time, thumb tracing the jagged line that cut Elena's smile in half. His phone buzzed. "Pavel, it's done. Your boy's getting processed tomorrow. 10 years if he's lucky. Want me to keep the pressure on their wife?" Andre looked at the ruined photograph, then at Sergei asleep down the hall, clutching the stuffed shark Andre had bought him the week everything exploded. He typed back, "Number. Enough." He deleted the thread, put. Rugin the phone on airplane mode, and for the first time in months, turned off all the lights before he went to bed. Outside, the city was silent under a thick layer of new snow, as if the world itself had decided some wounds were better left frozen. But in the dark of her tiny studio, Elena still slept with the lights on. And somewhere in a concrete cell 200 miles away, Michael stared at the ceiling and whispered Andre's name like a curse he would never be free of. The game wasn't over. It had simply gone quiet. And quiet, sometimes, is the most terrifying sound of all. 5 years later, April, late afternoon, the city finally warm enough to open windows. Andre stepped out of the metro at the same stop he'd used every weekday for the last decade. New job, bigger title, better money, but the route stayed the same. Sergei, 12 now, all elbows and voice cracks, waited by the newspaper kiosk. Earbuds in, scrolling on the phone Andre had reluctantly bought him for his birthday. "Dad, can we grab pizza before practice?" "Only if you carry the bag," Andre answered, ruffling the boy's hair that was already taller than his shoulder. They walked the familiar 4 blocks. Normal father, normal son, normal Wednesday. Until they turned the corner onto Maple Street and Andre stopped dead. Elena was 20 feet ahead, kneeling on the sidewalk, helping a little girl tie her shoe. Same dark hair pulled into a loose knot. Same careful way she tucked stray strands behind her ear. She wore the navy coat he'd bought her the winter before everything exploded. She looked thinner, calmer, older in the way only real pain ages a person. Sergei saw her the same second. "Mom?" The word cracked out of him, half surprise, half longing. Elena's head snapped up. Her eyes, those eyes Andre had once known better than his own, locked on their son, then flicked to Andre. For a moment, no one moved. Sergei didn't wait. He sprinted, backpack bouncing, and threw his arms around her waist like he was 7 again. Elena's arms closed around him instantly, eyes squeezed shut, tears already running. She buried her face in his hair and held on, like she was afraid he'd vanish. Andre stayed where he was, grocery bag heavy in his hand. When Elena finally let go, she wiped her face with the heel of her hand and stood. The little girl she'd been helping tugged her sleeve. "Miss Lena, is that your kid?" "Yes, sweetheart. That's my son." Sergei turned back to Andre, eyes pleading. "Dad, 5 minutes? Please?" Andre felt the old reflexes rise, anger, contempt, the urge to punish. He crushed them down. 5 years was a long time to carry a live grenade. He nodded once. Elena walked over slowly, stopping 3 feet away, close enough to speak, far enough to respect the invisible border that had existed since the night he threw her out. "Hi," she said, voice steady, but her fingers worried the cuff of her coat. "Hi," he answered. Silence stretched, thick with everything they hadn't said in half a decade. Sergei looked between them, confused, sensing the weight, but not understanding it. "I'll wait over there," he muttered, retreating to a bench 10 yards away, pretending to check his phone while watching them like a hawk. Elena spoke first. "He's so big." "Yeah. Shoots up every time I blink." Another silence. "I never thanked you," she said quietly, "for letting me see him, for not disappearing him completely." Andre shrugged. "He asked about you every day for 2 years? I wasn't going to punish him for what you did?" She flinched, but didn't argue. She'd learned not to. "I got the promotion," she continued, filling the air because silence hurt more. "Program director at the shelter. Full-time. Benefits. They're opening a 2nd location next year." "Good," he said, and meant it. "You were always good with kids." Her eyes flicked up, surprised at the absence of acid in his tone. "I read your article," he added. The one in the local paper about foster reform. It was solid. She swallowed hard. I didn't think you'd see it. I still know your byline. Something loosened in her shoulders, just a fraction. Sergei jogged back over. Dad, practice starts in 20. We gotta go. Andre nodded. He shifted the grocery bag to his other hand. The moment balanced on a knife's edge, walk away forever or take one step forward. He took the step. We're doing pizza after practice on Fridays now, he said. If you're free, Sergei could use both of us in the same room without it being a war zone. Just pizza. Neutral ground. No promises beyond that. Elena's breath caught. She looked at their son, who was suddenly trying and failing to hide a grin the size of the moon. I'd like that, she whispered. Andre gave a short nod. Friday. Giovanni's on 5th. 7 o'clock. He turned to go. After 3 steps, he paused, didn't look back. And Elena? Yeah. Bring the navy coat. It always looked good on you. He walked away before she could answer. Sergei ran to catch up, talking a mile a minute about soccer practice and whether Mom still hated olives on her pizza. Behind them, Elena stood on the sidewalk long after they disappeared around the corner, tears running freely now. But for the first time in 5 years, they tasted like something closer to hope than punishment. Spring had finally come. Some cracks never fully heal, but sometimes, just sometimes, new things grow through them anyway. The story wasn't over. It was simply at last turning the page.